Yeah.
It is how you feel in your body. Do you feel strong in here? Do you feel healthy in here? And I think it's one of the most underestimated transitions.
Yeah,
We
because
really underestimate the change and the transition that the body
you
goes
don't
through.
see it coming and it creeps up on you. Yeah.
Are you happily married, single and searching, or single and not searching? You're in the right space. We're all students of life, and we're here to celebrate and explore the secrets of long-lasting relationships and marriages.
In each episode, we dive deep into topics like communication, family dynamics, parenting, finances, health, and wellness.
Join us on this exciting journey as we create stronger, healthier, and more fulfilling relationships, one episode at a time. Welcome to Life on Stereo. Hello, people. Welcome to Life on Stereo. We are your host, Judith and
Kingsley.
Yes, and we are so excited to have you here once again. If you are not part of this family, this community, why don't you go right ahead and subscribe to this channel and click on the notification bell so that when we release new videos, you will be the first to know, and share with your family and friends so that we can expand this beautiful community.
Awesome.
Great. You know how we do it here. We are going to delve right into today's juicy topic. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Don't be deceived. Looks are deceiving. Don't be deceived by the title of the episode or whatever. Be sure that this is going to be great. I think that this is going to be, let me just put it out there. This is going to be one of my favorite discussions that we have had so far. So what are we talking about today?
We're talking about transitions.
I put you on the spot.
Yeah. Transition. And this has to do with different changes that we go through in life.
Change. All about change.
I mean, life, I always see that, life in itself is a transition. Because we are moving from here into a better place,
Hopefully,
to put it that way.
with us.
Yes, exactly.
See that?
So, since life itself is a transition, within life, and someone says that the only thing that is constant in this world is change. So that's a very popular saying, and I believe that's true. We're always going through
Very true.
changes, and it can come in many different forms. So we thought, this would be nice to talk about. Navigating some of these changes can be tough sometimes.
Yeah.
So these will be good to talk about. And by all means, if you have certain things you're going through or you've experienced, which we can all learn from, please share with us in
share. We
comments,
love your comments,
emails, messages, anything at all. Yeah.
Yeah. And some changes are so subtle. They just creep up on you. By the time you open your eyes, hi, I have changed. Things have changed.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
It's always good to have time to reflect and to assess your surroundings within you, just assess changes that have gone on or are going on within you, within your surroundings, and adapt. Yeah. Great.
Let's get
so
to it.
We are getting into it, and we want to talk about, like, maybe you can start it off just to set the tone, something that you consider a significant change that happened in your life, if you have any.
Absolutely. I think maybe the biggest, two. It's when I moved from being a single or a bachelor to being married. That was big for me.
That was big.
Because it comes with several changes. We'll get into that.
We will get into
a
that
bit later.
Yeah.
And then
What's
the
the
other
second
one
one?
will also be becoming a father. And I know those these two will most likely be some of your biggest transition as well.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. What she mentioned was like, I think the most significant as well for me, made quite an impact on me. But one other thing, and I hope I don't get emotional and all that, but is losing my dad, right?
Yeah.
That was significant, more than I could think, just I think a day or two ago, it just creeped up on me sort of, like, oh, if my dad was here, he'll see me doing that and that and that. So yeah, so I think that loss can also
Yeah.
be a huge change. And
Yeah.
maybe we can start from there and then we can go on. Maybe we can start right from there, because losing someone that you love, deeply, or losing someone that is close to you,
Yeah.
someone that you have a relationship with in one way or the other, I feel it's a huge change, and you have to transition into something. For instance, if, this is my father, so from having a father to not having
Yeah, that can
him
be
around, and that was very huge for me, because, growing up, my father was the champion for education. When it comes to education, he championed, like, he will use his last penny to make sure that his children are well educated. And it was so unfortunate that he was not there to see my graduation. And that was really, really sad for me. In fact, I almost did not go for my graduation. But a friend who insisted that I attend my graduation. So that was one. So I think that loss is something that can, like a catalyst to change in your life.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you don't surround yourself with people who can help you come to terms with what has happened and how to transition from that point, that mental space, that, emotional space into a more positive one. One thing I find when it comes to loss is that not to, like, sort of try to distance yourself from the thought of losing the person, but have people around you who love you, who care about you deeply, who can see you go through that tough time, but just be able to embrace you, just be able to shower you with words of affirmation, your love, and even just to help you. Because sometimes when it comes to people who have lost their spouses, sometimes it can be so crippling that they are not able to go out of the bed, a whole cloud of heaviness can come over them. But if you have people who are surrounding you, showering you with love, even lending a helping hand to you, just to help you relax into that place and go through a grieving process and know that you have come out fresh. I think the last time we were watching like a short movie of a dad. Do you want to talk about that? It was so interesting. What was the title? I think everybody should really watch that.
Can't
It
really
is
remember.
amazing. You should look for it, and we are going to put it in the description. You should definitely look
Something
at
like
that.
The After or something.
The After, something like that.
Just go ahead. I'll look it up and tell everyone. Yeah.
And so this man had lost his wife and his daughter on the same day through an extremely tragic event. And he had shelved, the grieving, thinking that, okay, he's okay. He
Everything
just
is fine. Yeah.
goes back to work and living like a zombie, moving through life.
Yeah.
And then one time, a little, well, not a little girl, but a young lady,
About
he
the
did
same
something
age.
of his daughter, the age that daughter would have
Would have
been,
been,
at that point. And then he did something nice for her. And then she said something to him.
Yeah.
And he completely broke down,
Yeah.
helpless.
The title is The After.
The After.
So
Please check it out.
on
Whether on
Netflix,
Netflix, check it out.
wherever.
You
Yeah.
need to see that and see how, like, when we shelve deep emotions, it can creep up on you suddenly and, like, just interrupt your life. And
Yeah.
so, I think that loss is one huge
Transition that
transition
we go through in this
we
life.
do
Yeah.
go through.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk about another transition, or you
Yeah,
have
maybe
something
we
to
should
say
talk
over?
about the transition from being single to being married.
Yes,
I guess
that is
that's one juice
what.
that a lot of people want to know. Those who are single watching us will want to know what
Yes.
they should expect.
Yeah.
Those who are already married
Want to relive
also
the
want to
experience.
and relate
Reminisce. Yeah.
how it could be. For me, well, it depends on how you were living before. But for me, I was, well, of course, living by myself, and I had been living by myself since I was 24, and we got married when I was almost 29.
Okay.
So for like 5 years, living alone, I can just sleep anytime or just watch movies until 3 or 4 a.m. I could just go out and come in anytime. Not that I was doing anything, crazy or anything like that, but I could just feel free and do all that without, really considering another person, in the equation. But then I got married, and I mean, I really didn't think of all those things before getting
We
married.
don't.
You just
don't
you're
think
just
about
living
that.
in the euphoria of the time and like the whole excitement of getting married to the person you love and so on. And then after you're married, like, okay, so now you go out and maybe you're supposed to come back 6 p.m. or something like that, but you realize it's going to take a little longer than that. Yeah, you need to notify someone so
That's
that
a good example.
so they don't get worried and so on. Or maybe if you really would have wanted to extend it, maybe you want to just be considerate and say, okay, she's been at home all by herself, or he's been at home all by himself and so on. So let me be getting back and stuff like that. So that was a big transition for me. It might not be like very drastic, but in terms of lifestyle and so on, it was a bit different for me. Yeah.
Talking about that, let's just be honest. I'm the one who's talking about. So
Of course, who
spill
else?
the beans.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that was something you had to consciously, intentionally, like, do, because like you said, you're a single person. You go out. You don't have to ask anyone's not permission, but to let the person know your whereabouts, or maybe if you're staying longer or something. For me, it was a bit uncomfortable for me not knowing. For instance, if you say, okay, I'm going here, I'm going to come back at this time. Okay, you go and then you're not back at that time, and then I've not heard from you, and then I feel like, okay, just a text like, oh, I'm gonna stay a bit longer, or that's
and in my defense, sometimes when you're having fun, time goes really quickly, right?
It does.
So
To admit, yes, it does. And so I had to, like, let you know that I would love for you to at least text me or send me a little message like, I'm staying longer, or just something,
to put your mind to rest.
to put my mind at ease. So exactly same for me. Moving from singleness or singlehood to being married is a huge transition. There are a lot of factors. We might not touch on all of them, but maybe I had a big family. I was always living with my parents and siblings. I had 8 siblings, even though mostly maybe like 5 at a time, I was always surrounded by people, right? And of course, even though I got older before I got married, even though I'm in the house with her, I also go out, and I don't necessarily have to, of
Yeah.
course, tell my mom. My mom knows I'm going to work, I'm going to places I want to go here and there. But coming back home and knowing that, you have someone you have to share your life
Life
with
Yeah.
is a big thing. Like our previous episode, we're even talking about finances, and you're like, okay, now even when it comes to finances, you have to
Yeah.
talk to this person. This person has to see you in all your phases of life, like see you
Exactly.
do this, see you do that. um that's a big deal,
Yeah.
right? And even with marriage, is good if you have like and that is why premarital counseling is very important, because there are things that your mind, like, you really are not considering.
Yeah.
When you're single, you can consider it, but then when you talk to more experienced people who have been married, or married counselors, they sort of help you consider things you probably haven't considered, so that you are prepared, you are not taken by surprise, or even more importantly, they equip you with skills or the wisdom
Yeah.
to be able to embrace the change that is coming.
Yeah.
I think that is good. One time, one married counselor, an experienced married counselor, says that all married couples need shock absorbers. That's what he calls shock absorbers, because he feels that when you get married, there are things that just come up. Things
Yeah.
come up with your spouse, your relationship dynamics, and you need some absorbers to be
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
absorb the shock of, I didn't know you did this.
And I
I
agree.
didn't
Yeah.
know you don't do this. I didn't know you don't like this. I didn't know this is how you do such and such. But then to be able to embrace, tolerate, and make room for each other, yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I just want to encourage our listeners.
Yeah.
Just share your story. What
We
were
love
you
to hear
doing
them.
before you got married? That is really different from how you do it now. And let us know in the comment
Yeah.
section
Let us know.
as
Let
well.
us know. Let us know. Let us know.
But for you,
Yeah.
I guess, because I talked about becoming a father, but for you, the transition of, not having kids, or not being a mother to becoming a mother, how was that for you?
It's been quite significant for me.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, I didn't start thinking about becoming a mother until I think I was like maybe 22 or 20, I think 23. 23. And that even sparked up because a friend brought it up, and all I could think about when he started talking about that was, that kind of, I don't
Yeah.
know whether to call it fear or dread, or, I'm like, because I think I was measuring myself with my mom. I'm like, my mom had, all these kids, and she was doing amazing with us. And I'm
Yeah.
like, can I even do what
Yeah.
my mom has
Yeah.
been doing?
Yeah.
Or, so I think that was really a heavy thing on me.
On
And so
you.
I think that before we got married, or even when we got married, we actually decided not to have kids for at least maybe 2 years, at least a year or two, just so that, we can acculturate,
Yeah.
from singlehood to married. However, pregnancy came, and then the kids. So it was sort of sooner
Yeah.
than I would have liked.
Exactly.
Even
And
though we,
same
we
for
were
me as
ready,
well.
we were like, okay, whenever the child comes, we are ready for it. But it was also like, I'm gonna be a mother. Oh my
Yeah.
God, am I ready? Do I have what
Yeah.
it takes to be a mother?
Yeah.
But it has been great. God, in his own wisdom and in his own mercy,
Yeah.
helps up. You'll be surprised to see how resilient you are when issues come up,
Come
when
up. Yeah.
challenges come, you
Yeah.
rise to the occasion. You'd
I
be
agree.
surprised. And that has been my experience. Even though like my pregnancy was healthy, I was healthy, I was blessed to be healthy, and birthing was difficult, was challenging,
Yeah.
both pregnancies I had to undergo C-section, and it was a lot. It
Mm-hmm.
was a lot, but thankfully I, healed from it, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's been good.
And I mean, I guess when the one thing that I also think is sometimes when we go through transitions, like the end results of the
Yeah.
transition,
Yeah.
like okay, we are transitioning from being single to being married,
Yeah.
but like the end results, being married, is it worth it? I'll say it's
Oh
absolutely
yes.
worth it.
Hands
Um,
down.
we transition from being by ourselves to
Having
becoming
kids. Oh
parents.
yeah.
Being parents, is it worth it? I'll say absolutely 100%, right? So that's one thing that is able to keep us going, or keep us encouraged.
Yeah.
And even though these transitions sometimes can be tough, depending on what transition it is, I think if we also derive some joy from the end results or the end points,
That
that
is
helps.
very, yeah. And I think that you touched on something. I would want us to talk about like the rewarding aspects of some of the transitions that we have mentioned, like moving from singleness to,
Yeah.
we've touched on a few things. We'll talk about that later. But one thing you also mentioned, something that can also be a huge transition for people, is location. Changing, place, changing where you are physically
Yeah.
to another place. Both of us had to move from Ghana to Norway. You moved first, and then I joined you when we got married. How was that for you? How was that for you?
Yeah. I mean, so for me, of course, it was a big change. Certainly. I At the time I was young. Well, it wasn't very long ago anyway. I was like
Yeah.
26 when I moved to Norway. But of course, I was single, so it was a bit easy. Just pick a bag and go.
On you go.
And at that time, I was also like sort of um, energetic and trying to really build my career and so
Yeah.
on. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was really open for a lot of
Yeah.
things, right? Um, it was a big change because completely different weather, completely different culture, and
Culture
everything
shock.
is everything is very different.
Yeah.
But I just always looked at the end goal. Like,
Yeah.
is it a place I want to be? Yes. Why? Because I feel like it will be good for my career and my line of work. It's like this place is really big on that. So it was like, okay, for me initially it was more like it's good on my CV. That's the first thing I
Yes.
said.
Yeah.
And then later when I got here, looking at the system, I realized they are really interested in families as well.
Yeah.
So, and that's what made me stay. So I came with a different, something different encouraged me to come.
Yeah.
Good on the CV part, where I had plans of
Going back.
going back, getting what's good on the CV, go back. But then when I got here, I realized that the system is really good. They care about families and so on. So this will be a quite a nice place
Yeah.
to raise a family. So
Yeah.
that's one of the major things that made me stay. Yeah. So in all, like, transitioning was not that easy, but I just had to take it as it comes and stay hopeful. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to say, like you're saying, you had a plan that's okay, I'm gonna do this, so I'm gonna move and come and do this.
Yeah.
And I want to say sometimes you have to physically move from where you are into another place that you feel in your gut, in your
Yeah.
spirit, in your heart
Yeah.
of heart, that you just feel that you have to move from that space. You feel that either that space is, stifling your growth or something, or not even that. Sometimes it could even be that where you are is great, but you are feeling that, intuition in your heart and in your spirit that you need to move into
Need to
this
move.
other space.
Yeah.
And God does that. And sometimes even the space that you are moving into, nothing shows that it will work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Physically, nothing shows that this geographical area will work for you.
Yeah.
But if you trust that God is leading you into that space, and
Preach.
you bank on
Yeah.
He leading you,
Yeah.
emphasis on, you really feel that you have to move into this space. I feel that if you do make the move, it will be difficult in the beginning, because you have to, like I said, acculturate, like new culture, sometimes we moved here and we have to learn a completely
Different language.
new
Yeah.
language to be able to
And-
have a good job and all that, and that is a lot, right?
Yeah.
But that is the sacrifice you are willing to
To
make
make. Yeah.
to go further and to move in a direction of your purpose
Yeah.
and your life. So I think that is really good.
Yeah. So for what I'm also getting from that is like there are certain transitions that we really don't have control over, like when you talk about loss and so on.
Yeah,
But then there are
true.
those changes that we take that conscious
I like
decision
that. Yes,
to
I
go
have to
into.
change this.
Yes, and
Yeah,
for that,
yeah,
of course, it will come with moving from your comfort zone, and so on. But then it's a conscious decision that we have to take, and it's important that we also consider the pros and cons very well.
yeah.
By all means, the pros need to outweigh the cons, because I mean, learning a completely different language, that's not very easy, because
Not at
language
all.
is like the biggest part of culture. Or
It is.
yeah,
It is.
and but then if I weigh it against, after I do that, what is the future looking like? And if it looks good, then it's a transition or
Yeah,
change that I'm
yeah, that
willing
is worth
to
it. Yeah.
go
Just to
through.
ask, I want to say, what can be challenging when it comes to like transitioning from like a geographical location to another is the dynamics are different when you have family and when you don't have family.
Yeah, yeah,
When you have family, then you would have to consider a lot of things. For example, for you, you were not married, you were single, you were young, you are young, and then you moved. Hey, I'm the only one on, the
yeah,
stakes are on me.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
no, nothing else is coming into play here.
yeah,
But then when you have responsibility and you have people whose life are directly connected to the decisions that you make,
yeah,
then you're transitioning. Like, I really like the way you are, splitting it into two transitions that you don't have any control over, and
yeah,
transitions that you have control over. The ones that you have control over and has to do with other people, then you have to involve those other people
yeah,
if they have that much of a stake, especially when it comes to a spouse and children, and then see how it affects
yeah,
them, so that some transitions have to happen immediately. Some too, you can plan to transition. And that is why
yeah,
I think the word transition, and especially when it comes to the ones you can control, is good for change in our life. So you can do it, move
yeah,
through the phases and until. So for instance, maybe you feel the place that you are, you have a job, but it's not, you know, advancing your career the way that you feel.
yeah,
And then you have a wife and you have kids. So you talk about it and you say, okay,
yeah,
look at this. Let's weigh this. If I move to this place in the career that I'm in, I will get more opportunities here.
yeah,
What does it have to say about your spouse's career as well? Can your spouse also advance his or her career, or is willing to move into something? Can your income when you move into that place cater for your family whilst your spouse is also transitioning, can you
Yeah.
go with it, or do you have to save something to help you make that move?
Yeah.
All that will come into play, especially when you have other people
Yeah.
with you. So geographical transition has some dynamics to it.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so now I want us to talk about transitions that happen when it comes to our physical or I did think about finances, but you want to talk about finances a little bit?
Um.
I want to talk about like transition when it comes to physical transition, wellness, your well-being,
Yeah. Let's go for
health,
it. Let's go
biological
for it. Yeah.
transitions, and okay. So life happens. Okay, this is called life on stereo for a reason.
Yeah.
Because life be lifing. So you're born, you're a young
Yeah.
baby, you're a little baby, then you become a toddler, then you're a teenager, and you're an adult. And when you become an adult, even from transitioning from teen to
Yeah.
a lot of things are happening in your
In your
body.
body,
You are
yes.
strong, you're energetic, like you want to move you move mountains, and
Yeah.
but when you're growing older, I feel that you have to take more responsibility when it comes to your body and your wellness
Yeah.
and your well-being.
Yeah.
And because I always say that you only have one body. You only have this suit
Yeah.
to live in on earth, and you have to take responsibility for it, and you have to feed it well and treat it well so it can serve you. All your plans in life, all your dreams and aspirations in life are great on their own accord, but they need this
Body to.
to go along
Yeah.
with it.
That's very true. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel that sometimes when we are transition physically, even maybe when you were young, you eat everything. But now your body is transitioning and your body is telling you, hey, I'm changing.
Yeah.
We need to listen to our body and say, I used to eat this. Now I can't eat this much of this.
Yeah.
Not to body shame. Everybody is beautiful. Everybody type is amazing. That is not the importance.
Yeah.
It is how you feel in your body. Do you feel strong in here? Do you feel healthy in here? And I think it's one of the most underestimated transitions.
Yeah.
We
Because
really underestimate the change and the transition that the body
you
goes
don't
through.
see it coming and it creeps up on you. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
One day you're squatting so freely, another day you decide to squat,
And then you're stuck.
and your body is telling you something. And I think that is very important. And when it comes to like the body, it's not just physical, like, okay, training, being active outdoors
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah.
It also has to do with your mind.
Yeah.
I think that 2023 for me was one of the years that I really came face to face with mental health. Like it confronted me like this, that
Yeah.
you have to take responsibility for your mental health. And I started taking some steps towards it.
Yeah.
And do you have something to say about? I think that that's quite important.
Yeah.
Because like when it comes to like mental health, for instance, like there are so many things for me personally that I shelved. Like this other guy that had, we spoke about earlier. I shelved. I thought I had taken care of it. Well, not taken care of, but I thought, I've gone through it. It's okay. It's okay. It's an experience I had. I'm okay.
Yeah.
But of course, mental health doesn't always mean there is something you're dealing with, something. But
Yeah.
life is life, and when you're growing up, when you're young, you don't even know the gravity or some of the experiences that you have. It is when you grow older then you really appreciate some of the things that you went through, and then I have to come face to face and confront some of the things, and yeah, it really helped
Yeah.
me.
And I think, one thing that comes with, transitions, and different cultures have a way of looking at uh, people who are dealing with certain things. Like, for
Yeah.
example, someone is dealing with mental health issues, and it seems to be frowned upon in certain cultures or certain professions, and so on. Let's say someone is dealing with grief,
Yeah.
and because of that, they are like depressed and so
Yeah.
on. But then they are not able to, in certain places or certain environments, they are not able to really share what's going on with them because they feel they will be seen as
Yeah.
weak, or
Weak. Oh.
and there are certain places where if you try to see a psychologist, people will think that maybe you're going crazy or something like that. So it's I know it can be quite tough with people with dealing with some of these things in certain environments, but the most important thing is that your life or your well-being and mental health is way more important than all the other whatever anyone thinks, and if we're in a relationship,
Yeah.
we need to support each other.
Yeah.
We need to let our partners or spouses know that I support you.
Yeah.
I can be there for you in this time of need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, like when you talked about like cultures and how we sometimes react when it comes to mental health, it's
Yeah.
quite interesting. And one thing I want to say is that um like even like sometimes in the church, like people are afraid to talk about their issues. I was listening to some a podcast, and the gentleman said that if you think you don't have anyone to talk to,
Yeah.
go and pay a therapist and talk to the therapist, because there is
Yeah.
so much release that comes
I'm just
when
sharing
you
you.
are just sharing. Even scripture says it, like confess to each other.
Yeah.
God knows that talking
It's really
talk it
therapeutic.
out
Yeah.
is really therapeutic. And sometimes you find it difficult to find people you trust. I
Yeah.
must admit, you do find people difficult to find someone you really trust, that okay, I can share this with this person can stand with me, support, hold my hands through this, and not go around telling everybody my issues.
Yeah.
So it is difficult, but you can be sure at least when you pay a therapist, they are sworn towards confidentiality
Yeah.
and privacy, that they cannot disclose your
Get
issues with
stuff to
someone.
anyone.
So
Yeah.
if you don't have anybody at all,
Yeah.
if you're a young person and you talk to your parents, don't go through it alone. Don't go through it alone. And sometimes, even from where we come from, sometimes our parents do all they can and all they know how to. But I always say life is life, and we are not perfect beings. And sometimes even parents do things that they are not even aware that it's affecting their children in this way.
Yeah.
And we have to give the room so that children can talk to parents, even when they've grown, that mom, dad, I went through this when you guys were doing this. You didn't even know that it was affecting me this way. But up till now,
Yeah.
it is doing this,
Yeah.
and sometimes you will only know. Sometimes people are acting out the way they are because of past issues,
Exactly.
past
Yeah.
trauma, past
Yeah.
experiences that they've had. But if you don't take time to, seek your mental health and grow and heal from certain things, you don't even know the source of how you're behaving.
Yeah.
So I think that it's very important that when our we are maturing in age, biological issues are not just physical, like
Yeah.
your mind is also begging you to feed it with good stuff,
Yeah.
positive things that strengthen it. The last time we were talking about dementia,
Right.
that is becoming increasingly popular.
Yeah.
Because of our lifestyle, sedentary lifestyle, watching movies all the time, watching social media onto,
Yeah.
we are not engaging our mind. And one way that, researchers have found is even reading
Yeah.
and working your mind with, I don't like math, so I'm just going to stick with reading. But those who are engaged with mathematics and, those kind of sciences,
Yeah.
science shows that it keeps your mind working for a
Very
long time,
active
and they
and
have
yeah.
low
Mm-hmm.
risk too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that our body also transitions, and we have to be aware so that we can keep giving our body the right things it needs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Has it
I
been
mean,
good?
it's been good. The transitions are
Wrapping
so
up.
many transitions.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about
Yeah.
financial transitions, but yeah, previous episode we spoke about finances, and
Yes. If you
we
have not watched that, please go and watch that. That is very good.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's one thing, managing your finances alone. It's another thing managing it with a partner
A
or a
partner.
spouse.
Yeah.
So that's also a transition that you'd have to navigate. But I think most of the information I would say here would be similar to what was on the previous
Yeah.
episode. So by all means,
Yeah. I
grab
just
that.
remembered something when it
Yeah.
comes to like physical transition. Like personally, it is something I experienced personally when I got pregnant and I put on weight. And then after, the pregnancy, trying to, put off the weight and all that. And it was not easy for me. And then my mind was just kept going into this like negative place, and I was
Right.
struggling with it. And I had to, sometimes I feel that when you transition into something different, you need to accept, not maybe accept, but you need to admit where you are currently. If you would ever make any change, any further change, or any further progress, or,
Yeah.
decision or step, you first need to admit where you are,
Yeah.
because this is a very maybe sensitive topic for some people, but sometimes like when the body changes, like with pregnant women and they come out of it and they are finding it difficult. For me, I'll go into the shop and maybe I used to wear size medium and small, like medium was my size, and
Yeah.
I would go into the shop and I'll buy size medium without even, you know,
Yeah.
trying
Trying
them
them
on.
on.
And
Yeah.
then I'll come home and none of them fits. I'm
Yeah.
like trying to, and then I take a picture and like worse, I'm like, oh my God, is that how I look? Is that how I fit?
Yeah.
And it was a lot for me. And I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It took a moment. It was like flash bulb moments,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
hey, this is your new body.
Just
Work with it,
accept it
appreciate
and
it,
yeah.
love this body that you're, and then work with whatever change you want to make. First, accept where you are,
Yeah.
and then say, okay, how do I move forward? How do I go from here to better?
So living in
Yeah.
denial doesn't really
Doesn't work.
work. Yeah.
Doesn't work.
Yeah. It may, and it's sort of a similar thing like when people have certain issues, like problems, things that are stressing them, and then they might want to
Denial.
just drink to,
Mm.
and in that,
Numb
yeah,
the
it just
situation. Yeah.
numbs it, and in that situation you feel like everything is fine until the alcohol goes out of your blood, and then you know that
Back to reality.
yeah, back to reality. So yeah, I think that's a good one,
Yeah.
accepting it and then finding a way to get where you want to get to. That's a really good one. Yeah, transitions. I think this has been a
Amazing.
great
Amazing.
discussion.
Yeah.
I'm glad we were able to go through this. Yeah.
Yeah. Please let us know any points that you have. And we want to hear from you guys, okay? If you have anything that you would want us to talk about, feature in
Yeah.
one of our discussions, we are talking live. We are doing live together. So come on, go into the description box, send us an email, okay? DM us on Instagram, send us a message, and we will love to, feature your interest in our
Yeah.
discussions. Again, subscribe to Live on Stereo on all platforms, social media platforms. If you are listening to us on podcasts, wherever you have your podcast services coming in from, remember to leave a review. And that is how come this podcast will be recommended to a whole other people. And subscribe on YouTube, follow on all social media platforms. And we will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Life on Stereo. We hope you found our conversation insightful and inspiring.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, share, or leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us.
Do well to follow us on all our social media platforms. See you in the next episode.